Stranger Things has made it clear that it is ready and willing to kill off characters that fans like. But should Steve Harrington have died in the 4th volume of Season 4? Since Stranger Things Season 4 is the longest, biggest, and most important one yet, it seems likely that one of the main characters will die at some point. When it comes to the question of who, Steve is a good choice for a number of reasons. Let's start off by highlighting Stranger Things' beloved bully. Steve Harrington has become such a fan favorite that it would have fit better with the story. Now that the main character with a Funko Pop head has been in as many episodes as any other cast member, it would make more sense for him to die if the Duffer Brothers wanted to shock fans. Steve, played by the always charming Joe Keery, has been a mainstay of the show since the beginning. At first, this bully turned best friend seemed like a typical 80s movie bad guy, but when he learned about the Demogorgon and the world of the Upside Down, his eyes were open. Fans quickly fell in love with Steve and Dustin's relationship, which Steve affectionately called Henderson. Together, they make a great duo for the show. Since the show's first episode, we've seen Steve change from a troublesome villain to a well-liked and important cast member. On the other hand, we only met Eddie earlier this season, so we didn't have enough time to get to know him or mourn his death. In retrospect, now that Season 4 is over and Season 5 is coming up, Eddie felt like he was just a sketch of a character that was going to be erased. Did Stranger Things 4 make the right call with Steve Harrington? With Volume 2, Stranger Things Season 4 is over, but Steve Harrington lives to see another season. Did the writers make the right choice? In Season 4, Babysitter Steve came closer than ever to dying. Twice, a dark ending was very close to happening. Demo Bats, the newest monster in Stranger Things, tore him up in Volume 1. Then in Volume 2, he and Nancy and Robin were almost killed by vines in the Upside Down Creel house. Steve, however, somehow made it out of both situations alive. Along with Eddie Munson, who died because it's a Stranger Things tradition to kill off the most likable newcomer, Steve's death in Season 4 was set up in a way that made people really worry about him. His close calls in the past, like getting beat up by the possessed Billy and being tortured by Russians, made viewers think that he might finally run out of luck at the end of the show. More than that, his heroic nature makes it likely that he would give his life to protect anyone. He was lucky to make it through Stranger Things Season 4. But some viewers have asked if the stakes of the previous season were used to their fullest. Should Steve Harrington have died in Stranger Things Season 4 when his death might have gotten the most attention? In the end, keeping Steve alive through Season 4 was the right choice, and there are many reasons for this. First of all, Steve is the only person Robin wants to talk to, and taking away her only support system would have been horrible to see and bad for her story, especially since he gave her the courage to talk to Vicky. More than that, it would have been cruel for Dustin to lose both his big brother Eddie and the father figure he sees in Steve in Volume 2. Dustin clearly has a lot of love and respect for both the older men in his life. After how heartbroken he was when Eddie died, it would have been too much to add Steve's death on top of that. The end of Stranger Things Season 4 was already sad enough without Steve's death. What if Steve died in Stranger Things? Eddie Munson was the new kid. He was young, easy to get along with, and a self-made failure who would never be understood. Eddie knew something was different about Mike and Dustin, even though he was at least 2 years older than them because the school held him back. In his last moment, he didn't care that his bad little town had treated him like trash up until that point. Instead, he forgave it for the sake of his new friends. Steve, on the other hand, had already saved the day, 3 times no less. When Steve was attacked by bats in the Upside Down, it seems like Stranger Things might have been ready to end his story, but it didn't follow through and changed its mind at the last minute. Turning the tables and letting Eddie live, we could have felt more emotional about his uncle putting up missing posters in the last episode if Steve had been killed instead. Even further, if Steve had been gone for Season 5, it would have given the others a bigger, more emotional reason to keep going and finish. Determined to stop this evil for good, Dustin would have had to fill the void left by the character's death, which Eddie, who is still alive, could have done as an older, darker, and funnier male character for the boy to look up to and make fun of. Now that Steve is dead, Nancy could have told Jonathan, who hasn't been used much this season, how he really felt about him. Also, since most people thought Eddie killed Chrissy and then ran away, he could have spent the next season trying to clear his name while dealing with the fact that he helped stop the real bad guy, but would sound crazy if he told anyone. Last but not least, it made sense for Keery to drop Steve from a professional and financial point of view. With the possible exception of Finn Wolfhard, Mike, Joe Keery's career outside of Steve Harrington in Stranger Things has been one of the biggest and most interesting. Last year, Keery was a big part of Ryan Reynolds' movie Free Guy. In 2020, the slasher movie Spree, which not many people saw but is culturally important and comes highly recommended, showed that Keery could carry his own feature film. Will Steve Harrington die in Stranger Things Season 5? And should he? If it was possible that Steve would die in Season 4, it may be almost certain that he will die in Season 5 of Stranger Things. The show has been on for 4 seasons, and none of the main characters have died, and the last season, a few of them should go. If the main characters on Stranger Things die in Season 5, it will be sad, but it won't really matter because Season 5 is the last one. The show hasn't had a main character die in a long time. Max and Hopper have come the closest, but they've always come back from the dead or turned out to have magically avoided death. Even though Steve is liked because of how much he's changed in Stranger Things, this raises the question of where his story can go next. Steve Harrington has had one of the most endearing character arcs in the whole show. His change from self-centered jock bully to a heroic babysitter has made him a fan favorite. The Stranger Things character story arc is almost done, and the only real way to end it is for him to die. Steve is the one who is most likely to die while trying to save someone else. He would give up his life for Robin, his best friend, for Nancy, the woman he likes, and probably even for Jonathan, because he wouldn't want Nancy to have have to be sad about him. He would also give up himself for any of the kids more than anyone else, because he's been their loving babysitter for 3 seasons and clearly cares a lot about them. His likely death will be heartbreaking to watch, but it would be the best way to end his story and show how important Season 5 of Stranger Things is. Finally, as a bonus, Stranger Things Season 5 can reunite Max and Lucas. Max had to face her trauma, for better or worse, because Season 4 of Stranger Things was so violent. Twice, Vecna came close to killing Max, which could have been a good thing or a bad thing. This means that if Max makes it to Stranger Things Season 5 alive, the couple could get back together because Max has started to deal with the unspoken grief that has kept them apart. Throughout Stranger Things Season 4, Lucas made it clear that he still cared deeply about his ex-girlfriend. The scene where Lucas read to a sleeping Max in her hospital bed is a moving example of this. Sink's explanation of why Max broke up with Lucas before her fight with the villain Vecna in Stranger Things Season 4 is pretty easy to understand. The actor said that Max was not ready to find new ways to be happy like Lucas. This was definitely true of the isolated and lonely Max, seen in Season 4 of Stranger Things. The scene where Sink's character drowns out the sounds of her high school by blasting Kate Bush through her headphones is a great example of this. But in Season 4, Max's loneliness almost killed her, and only her friendships with Lucas and Eleven kept her alive. Both of them were willing to put themselves in danger to try to save her. So Stranger Things Season 5 might bring Max and Lucas back together, now that Eleven knows how much she needs her closest friends. Well, that's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Till next time, cheers!